fight.
Yeah, that was a good fight. I was like, I kind of wanted Dustin to get one, because he's on his way out.
For sure.
I watched some of like the bigger fights, and I keep up with like some of probably the bigger headlines, but I'm not deep into it, like watching all of those on the weekend. So I can't call myself like a UFC nut, but I definitely like it.
Yeah.
I did jiu-jitsu for like a very small 2-month period.
Okay.
I feel like that kind of got me a little bit into it.
Yeah.
But that was as far as I went.
Okay. What made you want to do jiu-jitsu?
A friend of mine's parents were doing it, and they really liked it, and like they were super close with the guy who owned the gym. And so we just like, he was a super cool guy. We met him a couple times, and he was like, you guys got to come by the gym one day. And so like during a summer when I was home for college, literally just for that 2-month period, one summer, it just worked out where we were like hanging out with that crew, and we just did jiu-jitsu like a few times a week, but it was really fun.
Yeah, it's a good workout too.
Hardest workout still to this day, I think. Like 5 minutes, full body exhaustion at the end of it.
And then the next day you're like so sore and just
sore. Like your muscles, you're using like muscles that you've never used before, because you're like pulling and pushing in like strange ways, and your butt, like when you're lifting, you're sort of like, you have to be in like this exact form to do this thing, and you do it over and over. But doing jiu-jitsu, like you're kind of in an awkward position trying to like build strength there, so your muscles are working in like weird ways,
and using muscles that you just like rarely ever use, or like things you don't know would be sore the next day. But I don't want to do a huge intro. I don't normally do huge intros, but we got Jack Cook on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I've been watching you since like I moved here in 2020. I don't think I saw episode 1. But maybe like around the 100 mark, I would say, or like
that's
maybe
early.
200 mark.
That's been a long time.
Long time, man.
So you might remember like my old apartment.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. That's a long time.
And when you moved out, you'd go back every once in a while because you weren't completely moved out.
You remember?
Yeah, dude. You've put me onto so many different things, but Jack has been vlogging on TikTok daily for coming up in 20 days on 1,000, day 1,000, which is 4 years almost?
Almost 3 years. 1,095 days is 3 years. So 1,000 days is like a little bit under 3 years.
Okay.
So I think today is 984.
Okay.
Today is 984.
So we have
16
more to go until the big 1,000. And Jack is throwing a party on day 1,000 with all the brands he's been able to work with from the vlog.
Yep.
Brands like Apple and Heineken and Yerba, right? You've worked with Yerba.
Yeah.
Leisure, obviously. The Wims family.
Yeah.
Just like crazy, man. And Jack's put me onto so many gems in LA. And I reached out, and he said he'd be super down to do the pod. So I appreciate you coming. I would love to come to the party.
Yeah,
that would
be
awesome.
It'd be a good time. It'll be close to here, actually.
Okay.
It's right around this area.
No, that house looks so sick.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. We got to tour it like a month or two ago, and just like the main like indoor outdoor layout with like it's got like a 90 like an L-shaped pool, which I don't think I've ever seen before. It's like wraps around a corner of like the outside of the house, which I don't know, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's insane.
I'm excited for it.
Yeah, no, so am I. And man, I mean, I guess you've done a few podcasts before, but talk to me about the idea just to start the vlog. I know you kind of got into filmmaking from Auburn and shooting the sports and stuff, and talk to me about that. And I want to talk to you about just like some of the different milestones throughout the vlog that I've kind of came across that I'm like, go Jack, like you're killing it, dude. But yeah, talk to me about kind of just the thought process going behind starting it, and then we'll kind of just go from there.
Yeah, the beginning was, I moved to LA in 2020. I had just graduated from Auburn. I had been shooting sports for 3 years at Auburn. So I had like a basic level of understanding of video and kind of what I liked about video and filmmaking. I moved to LA and I worked for like a year and a half being only behind the camera, like anything from PA to if somebody wanted me to direct to anything in between that I could sort of get my hands on.
Yeah.
So I did that for a year and a half. So I moved to LA in like June of 2020. By the time October of 2021 came around is when I started the vlog. And right before starting the vlog, I just kind of went through this period of feeling like I was doing my freelance work, but I wasn't building anything. I wasn't like a part of a production company. I wasn't like trying to get on a roster of directors.
Yeah.
I didn't have like my own thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, I need something that feels like my thing. Like, what is that going to be?
Yeah.
Do I start a production company? Do I try and, join with an agency, or what is that thing that I do? And I just kind of went back to like, what do I really love about filmmaking? And there were these summers that like in between school when I would go back home and make YouTube videos with my friends. And that was sort of like where I fell in love with the process of filmmaking and storytelling. So like the actual making of it, like making those videos with my friends during the summer was so fun.
Yeah.
So that's what I loved the most about filmmaking. And I was like, how do I then turn that into, something that I could do now? And I went back to another format that I really loved watching growing up, which was the daily vlogs back in like 2015, that YouTube, like when YouTube was in its like golden era, it felt like, and everyone was posting, 3+ times per week. So I kind of combined the two, and I was like, okay, I'm going to flip the camera back onto myself, start making videos from my POV again, and do it daily. That way I have some kind of like, what's it called? Where you keep yourself accountable.
Yeah. Accountability.
I had some kind of accountability tool to like being like not just making a video whenever. I was just going to do it every day. I was going to keep it light, keep it simple. And then I started on October 4th, and that was day one of the vlog 2021. And we have not stopped for a single day since.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. So you kind of wanted like, and I've heard you talk, like you kind of wanted, even like you said, kind of, you mentioned it, I guess, but when you didn't have like a freelance or something that you could like a job essentially that you just like, you could wake up and do. And like, that's kind of like gave you purpose, I guess, in a way. I
wanted something for myself. And I also wanted something that I had like the creative control over.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things that like, as a filmmaker, there are things that I like to do, like storytelling wise. And when you're working for other people, when other people are your client, they kind of have the final say. So they sort of get to make and adjust the video to be whatever they want it to be, because they're the ones paying for it, which makes sense. But a lot of times it's sort of, not every time, but sometimes it can sort of crush a little bit of that creative spirit that you have when you feel like you're sort of put into a box of what the client wants. And so I was like, when I was doing the vlog in the early days, I was still very much doing all of my freelance work. But I was doing the vlog as like, the vlog was like this thing that I could come back to at the end of the day after I had done all this stuff for other people. And I was like, I finally get to do this for myself. Yeah. It was almost like self-care filmmaking in a way. Yeah. And it was really like lo-fi for a long time. Like the 200 days were just, the first 200 days were like, I kept it really simple. I shot everything on my phone. I talked about stuff that I was interested in, and I went through my day and tried to pull out some nuggets of information that I may have learned and, make it interesting for people watching, and that was about it. And it was just like this thing that made me feel okay about, filmmaking for a while.
Yeah, I feel like, the first like 200 days you're kind of just refining and just like you said, just kind of doing something creative for yourself and just kind of filling up that cup. So from there, kind of when did it kind of turn like, oh shit, I can do this. This can be like my full-time job. Like, was it a brand that reached out, or was it like, I know you've mentioned that you don't really do it for like the views. You're kind of just trying to tell the best story every day, which I think is a fantastic way to view it. But yeah, when did it kind of turn? Was it after like the 200 mark, or?
Yeah, it's cool to like look back on that timeline because I literally have all the days that I can refer back to. So like Coachella on day 194, I think was that first day that I went to Coachella. And I thought about like, okay, there's I've been doing this now for 190 days. I really enjoyed doing it. Is there a way that I can like capture this moment to maybe take it to like the next level? Like, can I step outside of my comfort zone and try and make something great here?
Yeah.
So I snuck my Canon R5 into Coachella, and I got like a bunch of really great footage of all the artists when they were performing, our friends hanging out, like tried to capture a really great looking daily vlog beyond just like capturing some stuff on my phone. I was like really trying to take it to the next level. And because I was waking up the next morning at like 6 a.m. trying to have the vlog up by like 9, it was a great, like when people woke up in the morning, my video recapping the previous day at Coachella was like the first thing that they saw. So it was a great like taking advantage of that moment and like really sinking into like the Harry Styles fandom was like picking up on my clips of him and like reposting them, and same with like some of the other artists. And then those vlogs did really well. Like they got multiple hundreds of thousands of views, I think, across like the whole weekend on different platforms. So like that weekend was a great, like up until that point, there weren't a lot of people watching. There were a few, but it wasn't like a lot. And then there was like, it kind of built a little bit of a base of like, okay, now I'm interested in a little bit of who this guy is, what he does for work. And then following Coachella, like less than a month later, I went and shot the Miami GP for Alpine for like the F1 race that they had there. Mm-hmm. And I was showing all the behind the scenes of that. And those vlogs did really well. So the like 200 to 300-ish mark, or really 200 to 250 was like a great like foundational building period of like the fan base of the vlogs.
Okay.
Because I sort of like stepped out of just doing this thing every single day to like showing a little bit more of what I could do, is stepping out of my comfort zone a little bit more. I also said in the vlogs like a month before the Miami race, I was like, how cool would it be if I go to the Miami race and I shoot it? And then I documented me figuring out how to do it.
Yeah.
And then actually went and did it. So it was like a cool, like, it was the first time there was a through line story that you were watching like across like a month long period.
Right.
And so I think the 200 to 300-ish day period was really foundational in like what became the next 600 days, which it kind of then after that turned into a full-time job pretty quickly.
Yeah, I was good. That's funny you brought up Coachella, because I was gonna mention that, because I remember seeing those videos of like Harry and just you shooting Coachella, and I'm like, how the hell did he get in there and get these amazing clips? So that's funny that kind of was one of the big kind of milestones that took it to the next level.
Yeah, it was a big push on like, I've noticed across the 900, however many days, 984 days, that like really sinking into cultural moments has been a big thing for the vlog specifically. Yeah. So anytime that I get attached to Coachella or an F1 race or, a movie, like even just going to see a movie that people are watching, like being a part of something that people are talking about, then seems to like make the vlog do a lot better.
No, that's smart. And then how, I know you've talked about this before, how do you kind of I think you talked about this in the last 505 pod, but kind of like distance yourself from like that thought process of like, I need to do this for the vlog versus I want to do this. Is that a still constant battle, or is it still kind of like?
No, most of the time I'm doing stuff that I like. I just like doing.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of my days where I'm spending time just doing stuff, feeling like, oh, I'm just doing this for my video, but I don't like doing it.
Yeah.
So luckily I've just sort of tried to attach to whatever my interest base is, make videos around that. And there's typically some kind of audience for it, whether I just randomly decided tomorrow to get into this new thing that I wanted to like make a big part of my videos. There's probably a fan base ready for content about it if you're telling the story in the right way. If you're like, I'm going to pivot and do fitness, like there's a bunch of people who are interested in fitness content.
Right.
If you shifted what you were doing tomorrow, as long as you were telling a good story, people are ready to consume that.
Yeah.
So I've just based it around like what my interests are, because there's always available people for whatever my interests are.
Yeah. No, that's smart. And I feel like that's important because I feel like there's a lot of people. I mean, back in Ohio is like, no one cares about the UFC. No one cares about fighting. Like, and then I started making videos about it, and a couple do well, and you're like, well, I guess I gotta start just keep doing this because if there's a fan base there, then
there's a fan base for everything. I mean, if I've created a little bit of like, I know other people who watch my videos are interested in like certain TV shows that I watch that I'm really a fan of. So like you can get niche even down to a certain TV show, not even TV and entertainment as a whole. You can get into like one TV show and make it a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's people ready to dive into whatever subject you want to.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. Okay. So I guess you originally started in the like filmmaking in general.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever have thoughts of like were you originally passionate about like long form, or were you originally you didn't really know kind of where you fit in, and then the vlog kind of took it there? Do you ever like, where I'm kind of going with that question is just like, do you ever like miss the scripted content, even if you make it of your own where you have kind of full control over it, and maybe that's down the line from now, but or maybe you're just so engulfed in like the short form, kind of just trying to become the best you can be at it. But do you ever feel like you kind of want to pivot to more of a long form?
I think eventually, being in LA for this long has made like being potentially a director on feature films, like those sorts of things, always when I first moved to LA felt like impossibilities. Like there's no way I could do that. And I think the longer that I'm here, the more it feels like it is kind of a possibility. It might just take a long time to get there.
Yeah.
And I think, going back to what I really enjoyed about filmmaking, making videos with my friends. And then when I was at Auburn, I was shooting sports. So everything was like almost documentary style. Nothing was really scripted with my friends. Nothing is scripted in sports. You can't script sports. So we're capturing things on the fly. And so it's sort of the same with the vlog, is I'm not really scripting anything. I'm sort of capturing everything on the fly and then building the story almost in reverse order. I think I am interested in getting into narrative eventually, and doing that somewhere down the line. I think there's probably a jumping off point where I'm like, the vlog is holding me back from doing something else. I think right now it's not. It's like a great thing for me as like a filmmaker and a storyteller to continuously refine my skills there. But I think there will probably come a point where I get interested in like, okay, close this chapter. This was a really great learning experience for me. Time to go experiment with something else. And maybe that is, being on a feature film set or more of like a narrative TV show, even documentary, like feature length documentary world. Maybe that's something I get interested in, like, I don't know, 5 years from now or something. I don't know what the timeline looks like.
Yeah, so right now you're kind of just taking it day by day, just grinding the vlog daily.
Just putting one foot in front of the other and being like, if I can just make today's video better than yesterday's, then I'm becoming better at filmmaking. And if there's an opportunity that arises, somewhere along the way, and it makes sense to like not be doing this anymore, then, great. I'll figure out how to like end this with a smile on everyone's face who's watched so far. But right now it's like, it's continuously opened new doors, but it's never really shut off the main source being the vlog. Like the vlog has opened all these doors, but it's never been like, you must stop the vlog to continue doing all of these things.
And dude, who knows, maybe one day one of the shows that you love will be like, hey Jack, come direct an episode of it could lead you right into it, which would be a smooth transition. But no, I think that's great, and I was super interested in that because I'm like, I came out here originally for film too, but with the world kind of going short form, pivoted a little bit to kind of just sports media essentially. But
that is another interesting aspect about it, is like film and TV and commercial seems to like be going towards the world that I'm in currently. So, am I potentially riding like a wave that in the next 1 to 5 years could like really pay off big time because it becomes like even more of a thing than it already is? is like going towards movie and TV like a bad move because maybe it starts to shrink, over the next 10 years. I don't know.
Right.
So I'm just kind of living it day by day, being like, I don't know what's going to happen.
No, for sure. And I mean, I feel like you see on like, on Twitter and stuff, like a lot of big movies, not a lot, but sometimes they're not performing as well these days as they once did. And, there's a lot of sequels and just different things to try to make more money at the studios. And who knows? I mean, maybe it'll come back around. We get some more original content, I feel like would be.
There have been some good ones in the past year or two that have felt like we sort of got out of the, like, the effects of COVID on the industry potentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting to think about where it goes in the next 5 to 10, even seeing like where ad agencies are trying to use their ad dollars towards, like they're sucking a lot of ad dollars away from a TV commercial that goes and plays on, the Super Bowl or between your favorite like TV show, and they're putting it into making TikToks.
Yeah.
Or like making TikToks as a part of the creative brief for a commercial these days. So it's like, if it's shifting towards this way and I'm already here, maybe I just continue to stay here and I can benefit off of that.
Definitely.
Maybe it's a thing that, so I don't know. There's a lot of unknowns about it, but I think that's kind of what makes it exciting.
No, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, I think so too.
I'm going to pop open the Bev.
Go for it. Beautiful. What was I was going to ask you about? Oh yeah. So for brands, obviously I'm sure the conversation is different with every brand that comes to you, but cuz TikTok's so unique in a way where like it's kind of algorithm based versus like followers and likes based. So when you're having this conversation with brands, how does it work in terms of like you obviously with some you say like you create content for them, whereas others like when you went with Heineken to F1, they kind of just said make your vlog.
Totally.
Which personally I think is like genius on their part because your original vlog is what the algorithm loves. So it's like they see that's I feel like that is like a great way to get as a brand to get like the most benefit out of collabing with you. But obviously in other ways like the North Face, I've seen some of their videos on their page and they're super sick. But is the conversation kind of different? Are you giving your input or do they kind of come to you with like a plan when they reach out?
Yeah, it depends on the brand for sure. I would say there's largely two big buckets, or I guess maybe three buckets. One bucket being we want Jack to be behind the camera to make TikToks or social style content that he already makes on his page, but we want him to make it for our page.
Okay.
And so we're going to have other people in front of the camera, but we want like his sort of expertise on like what's going to work in a short form vertical landscape here.
Okay.
That's one bucket, and that's a lot of what happens with like the North Face, for example.
Yeah.
Or recently did that with Tribute Hotels, and we went to like 3 different of their hotels. So all of those have been that bucket. Second bucket is typically agency reaching out on behalf of a brand saying, hey, we represent this brand. We have this campaign going on. Typically that campaign is going out to tons of creators, not just me.
Okay.
So you're sort of like, here's like the goal of what this campaign is about. Now, how would Jack make a video about it, post it on his page for this brand? And the agency would then like, sometimes they'll put ad dollars behind it to help boost the video, whatever it is. That's kind of like traditional brand deal. Second bucket.
Okay.
Third bucket is a little more rare, I guess, in my case, but there's a lot of this that happens, which is sort of the Heineken bucket, which is like, come and do this experience. And because we're giving you this experience, that's sort of like almost the payment for it.
Yeah.
And in return, we just want your natural everyday thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of the third bucket is like the experiential, like come to this event, come do this thing with Formula One, come to this, whatever it is, do your thing that you already do, just include us in it.
Okay.
Yeah. That's kind of the third. So those are the 3 main like ways that typically a brand is coming to me.
Okay. So that's interesting. Yeah.
And all of them sort of like relate back to the vlog. They sort of reference the vlog as like, you know, North Face trust that I know what's going on in TikTok because I'm making one every day.
Right.
And the brands that are reaching out through these agencies know that I have an audience and I'm going to tell an authentic story and relate their brand into it naturally. The brands that are doing that third bucket are like, they know I've made 984 of like the same kind of video every day.
Right.
They really know what they're getting when they invite me to come do this thing.
Yeah.
They can understand what they're going to get in return is this like daily recap of my day, and it's going to include all of the things that my videos typically include, plus their brand's going to be organically integrated into it if they're a part of the organic experience.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's not as much like risk. Well, I guess from my perspective, there wouldn't be as much risk involved for the brand in that third bucket because they know like the video is going to hit the algorithm and it's going to be a Jack video, and the algorithm's going to essentially post it the same way or push it the same way for the most part as they would one of your just normal daily vlogs, which
it's actually the third bucket is actually a bit more risky than the second for a brand because the brand has so much control over that second bucket.
Oh, okay.
Like when they come to you and they come to you with like, here's the campaign thing, you really have to go back and forth before the video is totally approved.
Oh, okay.
So the brand is like, here's the notes, here's the things we want you to change, here's the messaging. We need to make sure you say this, that, and the other. Change this specific word because our legal team has like a problem with this.
Oh my gosh.
So change this one word.
Yeah.
So those are like really, I don't want to say manufactured because, you know, there has to be a through line of authenticity, but they have a lot of control on like every aspect of it. The third one, I think you get those opportunities if you're a really trustworthy creator.
Oh, okay.
I think you have to like prove that on your own for then a brand to be like, okay, we trust them enough that if we invite them to this thing, they're going to make us look good on behalf of whatever their content is.
Yeah.
Because they don't have as much control. Like they don't see my video before it goes out.
No.
So who knows? They could be in my video and then I like do something really stupid,
right.
you know, but they're taking that risk of like, Jack's not going to be stupid because for the past 980 days he hasn't been stupid.
Yeah.
So we trust that he's not going to be when we invite him to do this.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, because brands have to be so, I mean, they kind of want control, I feel like.
Totally.
In most senses.
Well, and it's also, you have to think about, you know, there is a person who is the one inviting you to this thing on behalf of a brand. That person's job rests on you when they invite you. Like when the brand invites you, it's not all of Heineken together being like, we all agree on bringing Jack to the Formula One race. It's one or two people being like, we think that Jack's a good fit. And if I mess up, it's going to go back to those one or two people who then, you know, their jobs could be potentially at risk.
Yeah.
So you just have like a couple people inside a brand making risk assessments on who they kind of want to bring to stuff like that.
Yeah.
So as a creator on the reverse side, I think like a lot of advice I give is think about like what brands would be thinking of you if they had like no control over your content. Would they be able to trust you enough to bring you to this thing?
Yeah.
Like, are you swearing a lot in your videos, or like even little things like that?
Yeah,
like, are you kind of loose and like, how's your, like, are sometimes your videos kind of controversial or whatever it is, you know?
Right.
Not saying that you just like have to put yourself in a box, but also like, I think it's okay to like not be a crazy person at the same time.
Yeah. 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 No, I didn't think about that either. 'Cause I feel like a lot of people too, and I think you've said this before, like, they'll be watching your videos from like other brands and they'll just be like, I'd love to work. I think Jack would be great for this. And then they pitch you to
the rest of
their team. Right.
Yes.
And
typically
then
how it works.
Yeah. And then they're kind of putting their trust in you to like not do something
exactly
crazy.
Yeah. Because you're there to benefit the brand, you know, and if you don't then benefit the brand, then the person that trusted you to benefit the brand is going to get the repercussions from the brand, because it's not like the brand can really, not like they can, unless you did something really egregious, they're not going to really like come after you.
No,
they're just going to come after the person that entrusted you to be there. If you were a fail.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So shifting gears, I guess, a little bit, kind of what are your thoughts on the current, I know you and I both, and only reason I know this because I've heard you talk about it, but like that golden YouTube era of content. I kind of wanted to get your thoughts kind of on just the state of like content these days, like kids growing up. Like I feel like YouTube, the views aren't as crazy as they once were. I feel like it's kind of gone towards the live streaming and Twitch streaming and stuff. Kind of just your views on that and just the content space in general, like longer form wise, like beyond TikTok.
Yeah, it's definitely shifted a lot. There's a lot more of like the streaming that seems to be more of a, I guess, draw for like the younger generation. It's not as much of like the content that I'm particularly watching, but it's a huge, space right now.
Yeah.
And YouTube seems to have had like a little bit of a rough time finding its place among all of it, but I think people are getting maybe a little bit tired of like scrolling and seeing a 6-second video and scrolling and seeing a 6-second video.
Yeah.
And maybe wanting to like, I know there are a lot more people wanting to create things on YouTube. I don't know what the appetite is for people watching. I think we'd have to have like a lot of people making the right kind of content for then the demand to rise for it.
Yeah.
So I could see like a little bit of a shift back into some longer form content. TikTok, and I feel like Instagram will probably follow suit, seems to like want to push some of the longer form stuff. They like will boost your videos if it's over a minute long and you film it horizontal.
Right.
And they just made a feature where you can upload a 60 minute
video.
Oh,
shoot. Okay.
You can upload up to an hour on TikTok.
Okay.
So I think they know that, eventually people are going to get brain fried of scrolling on vertical for, it's been 4 years.
Yeah.
People are doing it. So I think we might cycle back to maybe it's YouTube. Maybe this landscape on TikTok just shifts and people start making longer videos on TikTok and you watch a lot less. Maybe you start going on your For You page less and you start going on your following page more because like, oh, this creator is going to post a few times a week an 8-minute video and I'm really excited to watch that.
Yeah.
Who knows? Or maybe it'll just stay how it is for another few years. I have no idea what the trend cycle will be like, but I feel like TikTok is trying to prepare to be on that wave if it were to happen.
Yeah.
But it seems still to me like I always base it off of when my friends are having like conversations with people, what is the most often like, I saw this and it's right now I saw this TikTok. It's usually either I saw this TikTok about this thing or I heard this on a podcast.
Yeah.
That seems to be like the two things that people reference most often.
Yeah.
In 2015, 2016, it was like I saw this guy in a YouTube video talk about this thing.
Yeah, that's a good marker.
So it's sort of shifted and I think it's still stayed to like I saw this TikTok about this new restaurant that we should go try.
Yeah.
Or I heard this supplement on a podcast that I want to try out or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So those two things seem to still be the like mainstays in conversation. If those start to shift, then I think we really see a shift.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like YouTube's been around for so long that I feel like they're just kind of holding strong right now and hoping that eventually things kind of curve back into that direction. I know I loved when YouTube was kind of like the golden age. It was, I grew up on a lot of just like influencer, YouTube videos versus like TV shows and movies and stuff. I did watch that kind of stuff, obviously, but when I come home from school, I'd be like, I gotta watch Casey, or I gotta watch, Doughbreaker. I gotta watch, one of those. Someone was dropping something that I had to watch.
Well, I think during that time it was really fun too to see like, not only was, somebody like Casey like chasing their dreams and achieving their goals, but it was sort of also like paving the way that mainstream interacts with social media. Like you'd see now it's kind of normal to see like a celebrity show up on somebody's live stream.
Yeah.
Or like somebody's podcast or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But in 2015, that was not the case at all. It was like, it was a crazy thing if like a celebrity would show up on somebody's YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So you sort of saw that shift happening during that YouTube era of like, a celebrity might make an appearance in a Casey Neistat video and you're like, my mind is like broken right now.
Yeah.
Right now, I don't think it would surprise anyone if a celebrity showed up on somebody's podcast, because it happens all the time.
Right.
Back in that day, I think that was a really fun part of it too, is it felt like YouTube was like this silo that didn't fit into the mainstream and was like finding its way into the mainstream because of people that paved that path for it.
Yeah.
Which was like a really fun journey to watch.
Yeah, and he was like a tunnel to like the higher up celebrities, like,
totally,
for like people that weren't like, yeah, and definitely just like humanizing them essentially.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and now, like you said, now you see him on live streams and stuff, and you know, it's just different. It's just different. But do you ever think about, I know you post the vlog on your Instagram,
mm-hmm.
obviously with the whole TikTok pending ban and stuff. What are your, like, do you ever have you posted on shorts before? Do you think if TikTok does get banned, kind of where you'll shift it? And do you think TikTok's going to get banned?
I mean, I really hope it doesn't.
Right.
You know?
Me neither.
That would be really sad if it did. I think there's nothing I could do about it for sure. So I'm not going to put too much worry into it.
Right.
YouTube Shorts right now doesn't let you upload longer than a minute. If you upload longer than a minute, it's just uploads as a normal YouTube video.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of my vlogs are over a minute, so I'd have to like make a separate export. So like right now, it's just, I don't know. I just don't do it at the moment.
Yeah.
If TikTok just disappeared tomorrow, like maybe I'd be like, okay, I should start posting these on Twitter and YouTube Shorts and seeing if I can grab some audience some other places.
Yeah.
But I think also, like, you know, if TikTok disappeared and like, you know, because of that, like no brands wanted to work with me anymore or something, which I don't know that it would happen, but like for the sake of it, like if it did, like everything just disappeared for me, I'd probably just go back to like making videos behind the camera and then figuring out like, what does this new landscape look like? And, you know, where do I fit in as a filmmaker? Because I have a skill set being a filmmaker. So
yes.
I could go to a production studio or a, you know, like any one of those things and like find my way into it.
Yeah.
You know, right now I'm just riding this wave of like short form being so dominant.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you're growing your Instagram kind of following as well. And I feel like, you know, like you said, I don't think if TikTok poofed away, I don't think all these people would stop working with you, because you've built relationships at this point. It's not like you're just like,
right,
you're just some fly by night guy that they just, I mean, you've been back multiple times to some of these different events. So
I think the biggest thing is like I'm such a better filmmaker now than I was on daily vlog number 0. So I have a lot more value to offer to any brand who's looking to tell a story. Like right now, every single brand wants to figure out how they can show up well on social media.
Yeah.
Every brand. And I have spent the last, you know, almost 3 years now trying to figure out what's the best way to get across your story in 60 seconds.
Yeah.
What I do every day. So there are a lot of benefits to that skill set that I would just sort of lean on.
Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah. And I mean, just doing the vlog in general. I mean, I know I would want to see more of you, kind of just your daily life. You've TikTok poofed away, so hopefully, you know, you don't go full behind the camera. But
no, I would still do some stuff in front of it, because I think there's so much of like that is such a part of the thing that I love about filmmaking. And I think even if I was just doing some jobs directing things on the side, I would still want to be like making videos about food and what I'm cooking for breakfast, and just because I think it's fun. It's just fun to make that stuff.
Yeah. No, definitely. That's a good segue, because I've gotten a lot of different like ideas from your cooking, and I know where did you learn how to cook? I think you said that your mom taught you how to cook.
Yeah. She's a great cook, and she cooked everything when we were growing up, and I don't know that I was ever super involved in the kitchen. I don't have a lot of memories of like cooking side by side with her necessarily.
Okay.
I think if she was like, can you help me out with something, I was never like, oh, I don't want to do that. But I don't remember like in high school being like me and my mom were like making dinner together, because I was just so exhausted from playing sports and being at school. So
yeah.
But I was always interested in food, and then when I went to college, then I was like, dang, I don't have my mom's cooking.
Right.
And I realized how much I loved it. So I was like, I got to figure out all the stuff that she used to make me. So then in college, I just sort of like tried to remember all the things that she was making me. And so now it's just become a part of my life.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, when you were doing I think it was in 23 when you were doing your Thanksgiving recipes, you did like a lot of those on you like incorporated them in. And I remember trying to replicate a bunch of them, like the Brussels sprouts you make.
Yeah,
I made those one time. Yeah. And the corn
pudding.
Yeah. The corn pudding is so good. Ugh. I know I was waiting for, I mean, obviously you've done it already, but, any ideas for like future? You should definitely keep doing the cooking recipes.
Definitely cooking videos for sure. Yeah, it's so fun, and it's also like cooking is interesting as a short form concept, anyways, because like cooking is sort of a story in and of itself. Like you have the beginning, you have the middle, you have the beginning of like here's all your ingredients, here's what we're gonna make. You have the middle of here's us making it, and then you have the end of here's the final product, and here's the satisfaction of the whole story. Like it's sort of baked into cooking.
Yeah.
You know, so it's sort of an easy thing to make videos about. But yeah, the whole process is so fun. So I definitely I do as much of the cooking stuff as I can.
Yeah, keep those coming because I get a lot of ideas from them, and yeah, it's like a perfect 3-act story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the beginning, middle, and end. And there's like a bunch of conflict, right? Like if something screws up, like when you made the bread and
trying to make croissants was the bane of my existence for months.
Yeah.
But it was a fun conflict to have for the videos.
For sure, yeah. And I'm sure inspired a lot of people to try themselves. I never tried the croissants. I think it was a little too.
It's really intimidating, and I don't know how much I would continue to do it. But some of the other stuff that I've made, like I'm kind of intimidated by baking, so I've been like, I'm gonna lean into a little bit of that more.
Okay.
Like making like sourdough bread and all that kind of stuff. That kind of thing you can definitely like do without too much hesitation. Croissants is its own beast.
Yeah.
It's hard.
There's probably like just an art to it, just like the rolling and
it's just so specific about, we don't have to really get into it, but like if the butter is too warm and then it like will melt into the layers that you're making, or if it's too cold then it cracks, so it has to be the perfect temperature the whole time you're rolling it out. Like you have to put it in the fridge for 10 minutes, but if that's not cold enough, leave it in for another 2 minutes. Like,
oh my gosh,
roll it out, do that 6 more times, like, and it has to be perfect every time. It's just a whole thing.
Yeah,
it's a whole thing.
That's why it takes so many times. I had a bunch of topics I did write down rather, that I wanted to ask you about, so I just want to check those out.
Go for it.
So we talked about the TikTok ban. We talked kind of about the brands you worked with. One big thing which we kind of got this week that I kind of want to get your thoughts on is AI. Apple Intelligence is now going to be part of the new iPhone. What are your thoughts kind of just on like the future of AI and how it's going to be incorporated into filmmaking? I know there was like strikes around this type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then just like a couple questions around that after, but yeah, just give me like your general overall.
Yeah, the feeling is definitely kind of scary. It's a little bit of just like an unknown. Like I really don't understand it and what it means for the film industry if it gets to be really good in the next 5 years. I don't know that just because it's something scary it means it's something to be worried about necessarily.
Right.
But maybe it is. I don't know.
Yeah.
I know that like, this one AI, I don't know if it's a plugin or it's a whole software. I think it's called Sora.
Okay.
They like announced that, and then like a bunch of post-production studios like shut down because of like that AI like announcement. Almost.
Oh shoot.
They like stopped building like some post-production companies. So it definitely has some big effects on the filmmaking industry.
Yeah.
And if all of them are negative, that would not really be a great thing. But it's hard to tell whether or not it's going to be like a tool to help enhance filmmakers' abilities, like, or if it's going to be something that just completely replaces entire, sections of the filmmaking industry and creativity. It's hard to tell if AI is able to truly be creative on its own, or if it needs human input to be creative.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like you have to give it a prompt in order for it to do the thing.
Yeah.
So maybe it allows us to do the thing that we were doing quicker and easier and better. if it then replaces, like, it can just come up with great scripts and great stories and just make things outright, that is a little scary.
Yeah.
But if it needs a human to be creative, I guess filmmaking specifically, maybe there's a world in which it works symbiotically as like an extension of us and more of a tool.
Yeah.
And that's just me thinking like really positively and optimistically about it.
Which I think we got to do. Yeah.
I'm just trying to see that one side of it as a potential.
Yeah.
You know, and then there's another potential of, something like a Sora coming out and then like, you know, potentially hundreds of jobs just getting like cut which is kind of scary if that continues to be a trend of like the filmmaking industry just continues to shrink and everything becomes more controlled by AI, and then I don't know. It's just weird to think about what that goes towards.
Yeah, and I feel like, you know, like it's going to be, I don't think it's going to happen, and it's not going to happen overnight. These things take time to like develop, but I feel like it was definitely one of the like bigger events that I'm incorporating it into the iPhone. Not quite as big as like the iPhone being announced, because obviously that was game changing, but definitely like, you know, with it being incorporated into just phones in general as time goes on. And maybe it'll happen gradually, and who knows, like you said, kind of what extent it's going to reach.
Yeah.
But, and I know there are like regulations in place with like the strikes that certain things can't happen with AI,
right,
which is a positive.
Yeah, I think one thing I've been curious about with tech is like when Tesla came out with, you know, we're going to do like fully self-driving cars, then everyone's brain is like, well, then every car is going to be driving itself and there's going to be no need for like a human to drive a car, and then they're going to make it illegal for humans to drive a car because humans are going to be worse than the computers doing the driving.
Yeah.
Like I have the Tesla like self-driving feature.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly how it works, but I'm pretty sure it's like looking at my eyes when I'm driving, because if I look away from the road, it starts beeping at me, being like, look at the road.
Okay.
And if I take my hands off of it, it's like, put your hands back on the wheel. So like it's almost defeated its own purpose of like, now I just would rather drive the car than have it like kind of driving for me. But if I don't pay attention, then it starts to like freak out and beep at me.
Yeah.
So like, I'm curious if it's somewhat of the same thing of like AI is so scary and unknown, but like in its reality, when it comes to that form, it still needs so much human touch in order to work.
Yeah.
That it's not as scary as we think it is.
Yeah.
Again, I'm thinking super optimistically here.
For
but I've
sure.
also thought that everyone's always said like innovation in technology is like this huge exponential curve. But like, what if that curve starts to kind of plateau a little bit and we don't have the exponential increase that we've had for the past, I don't know, 30 years kind of with technology? Like, what if we kind of start to see it plateau a little bit? I feel like if you looked at technology in iPhones, you would probably track that as a plateau, right? A little bit.
Definitely.
Like from 10 to 15 has probably been a lot less than 1 to 10.
Definitely.
You know?
Yeah.
So what if some of these technological advances are kind of starting to like level out a little bit?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's going to keep going up and turn into this crazy thing, but it's just me thinking hypothetically.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully we don't get Terminator 2, but
that would not be good.
Yeah. So that was one. I know I saw like this. I was talking to Jesse, actually, the producer, about this before you got here. I saw like this Gary Vee clip where he's like, AI creators are going to like, the influencing industry is going to take a massive hit because like AI is just going to have these creators, and these businesses are just going to create these AIs, and they're just going to do whatever they want, and they can have them be, you know, a left-wing AI, a right-wing AI. There can be a sports AI. There could be like just all these different things.
It sounds dystopian.
I know.
It just doesn't sound like anything I would want to watch.
No.
Me neither. Like if there was 20 of those, and then one real creator, I would probably want to watch the one real creator.
Yeah.
So I don't think like the idea of like quantity of being able to do all of this massive amount of output. I don't know.
Yeah, but no, I agree with you totally. I mean, I think personally, I would rather watch. We're always going to be drawn to people. I mean, unless it gets to the point where you can't even recognize what's a person and what's not. But I feel like we're a long way away from that.
There have been a couple times where I've been scrolling and like watching a TikTok video and totally believing it, and then checking the comments and being like, I didn't notice this was AI, and then rewatching it and being like, wow, I just watched an AI video and had no idea. Like, that's a little scary.
That is a little scary. Definitely with songs for me too. Like, you'll hear like a Drake AI and you're like, is this real? Is this not?
Yeah, so weird.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know how much time we have, but
I got plenty of time.
Cool. I want to talk about the business. Jack's starting his own business. He's been teasing it in the videos for a long time.
Yep.
At this point, you will have already announced it. Your announcement video will already be out. But talk to us a little bit about it. Kind of what is it and what's your goal with it?
Yeah, so the business's name is Hydrant.
Okay.
Hydrant will be a instant payment processing platform for creatives.
Okay.
Creatives and creators. So, we talked a lot about those buckets, those 3 buckets. So whenever I work in any of those 3 buckets, the end result of that is me finishing the work and then invoicing those, agencies or brands or whatever. And then typically then they have payment terms on that, which is widely known as net 30 or net 60, or sometimes you get net 90, which feels like it should be illegal, but it happens sometimes.
Okay.
So these payment terms are a part of every single one of these deals that I've ever done since started, being in filmmaking, being freelance creative.
Yeah.
So a company like Hydrant is the one that we're creating, comes in the middle of that and says, hey, Jack, you did this work with the North Face. They're not going to pay you for 45 days. What we're going to do is we're going to buy that invoice from you. We're going to pay you immediately. Take a small fee on that immediate payment, kind of like a Venmo instant transfer would.
Yeah.
Take a small fee on that immediate payment, and then we're actually going to wait on your payment terms from the North Face on that 60 days. That way you can have your money today. You can go make your business decisions, and you don't have to wait for the next 2 months on your payments.
That's genius.
So it's sort of like in other industries, it's referred to as invoice factoring.
Okay.
It's sort of like that. It's going to be in that same world, and it's used in a lot of other industries. It's just never been marketed and packaged for independent contractors who could do it at like an ad hoc, not ad hoc, a la carte is what I was looking for.
Okay.
So you could come to us and you could use the service if you had 100 contracts that 100 invoices you were going to send per year. A lot of invoice factoring companies, if you signed up with them, they would require you to run all of those through them.
Okay.
But we're going to come in and say, you can use our website 1 time out of the 100 times, you can use it 50 out of the 100 times, or you can use it on every single one. It's totally up to you. You have the freedom to use the site when you want. If you do want your money quickly on payment terms because it's 60 days and that's 2 rent cycles.
Yeah.
Or it's 60 days and there's this, gear purchase that you want to make and you want the money for it today. You don't want to put it on a credit card and then hope that the company pays you back eventually. Like maybe they're a little late on payment. There's a lot of problems associated with being a creator and having to wait on payment terms, and I've experienced it multiple times.
You've mentioned it in the vlog.
And it gets real sketchy sometimes. And you're like, my life sort of depends on these payment terms.
Yeah.
So having like a company like this come into the middle and be like, we can sort of be on your side when it comes to this. We will give you your money today if you're willing to take a little bit of a hit on the percentage.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about the payment terms anymore.
Yeah.
So that's the business.
That's genius.
So I hope that creators and creatives really enjoy it. I hope that it becomes like, as we scale up, I think we can get to like managers that have like a roster of 10 or 20 creators could all be using it for all of their creators all at the same time.
Yeah.
We can give it to agencies as like a free service to them to use with all their payments. Like,
yeah,
there are a lot of different ways that we can grow and scale the business, which we're really excited about. But right now we're working on the fundamental of like, you are a creator, you have an invoice you want to send out, and you want that payment today. You want to get paid when your work is done, which seems crazy to think that like that's not a thing. But it is a thing where you're having to wait multiple months sometimes on payment.
That's insane. Yeah. So what's the process like for like, did it require you to get a bunch of funding for like the beginning? Cause like, obviously once you start getting clients. You have to have the funding available to pay the people. And
yes. So typically an invoice factoring company would like raise money or do it privately.
Yeah.
We actually have a partnership with a bank.
Oh, okay.
Who is going to be like underwriting all of that, all of those contracts. So we're sort of like we're not really the middleman because we're also packaging the service as well, but the bank is sort of partnering with us to be able to do that rather than us going out and raising money and then having to continuously raise as we scale.
Yeah.
The business can scale as soon as we're ready to.
Because you have a bank under. So did you have to pitch the bank, or did you have like a relationship? Or
we eventually got a relationship. Took a long time. Like the original idea for this was brought up in January of 2023. And so it really took like almost a year to get to the point where we were like, okay, we have the relationships to be able to actually package this service and go to market.
Okay.
And we've spent the last 6 months now figuring out what that looks like and then like building the website for it.
Okay.
And the website is really like the key component between us and the creator. So we've been doing like a lot of back and forth on like what it looks like and what the messaging is like. And so as of Monday, what I'm going to announce is that like what the service is and what we're going to do. And we're going to invite 20 creators to come on and be a part of our like beta testing for the next month and sort of get internal feedback from creators on like, we want the platform to be built by creators. Right now, I'm sort of the one representative creator.
Yeah.
So we're bringing in 20 more to sort of get more perspectives and say like, what are the pain points with our process that we could alleviate for you? Because at the end of the day, all we are trying to do is get creators their money faster.
Yeah.
And if we can do that really simply and easily and make it clear to the creators how to do that, that's our goal.
Yeah.
So hopefully this beta testing period will help us get there.
That's smart. Yeah. Have people test it out, see how it goes.
Yeah.
And like you said, work out the kinks from there. That's awesome, man. How did the idea just come from like...
I had no idea that this was a thing that existed. And one of our co-founders now called me back in January of 2023, and he was like, hey man, just had like a couple questions if you were open to like telling me how, invoicing works in LA. He was like, do you ever have to wait on payment terms? I was like, yeah, every time I do a deal, I have to wait on 30 to 60 day payment terms. He was like, does anybody do invoice factoring in LA? And I was like, what's invoice factoring? And then he explained it to me. And then I was like, okay, this would be something a lot of people would really like to use. And since then I've been just talking with like close friends, like if this was a service that was available to you, would you use it? And people have been like, yes, dude, I would love to use that. So the feedback's been really positive verbally. Now we're going to really test that beta wise. I've already run some contracts through it myself.
Okay.
Now we're going to test it with some more individuals, get their feedback, and then once we get feedback from them, we'll be like open and ready for anybody to come on and use it.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations. I'm super excited to watch the process.
I think it'll be fun to like for the vlog specifically to like document what that journey looks like and building it. And if people really like it and it's successful, then who knows where it goes, and then the videos can follow that journey. So I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, and like you've talked about like open-ended stories. Like this is just the ultimate open-ended story. It's just you growing a business and kind of just people following along.
Yeah.
Which I think is one of the best ways to garner attention and get people to keep coming back. Yeah, I mean that's awesome. I know we only have like 10 minutes left with the studio, because I only rented it out for an hour. And I got to get back to work, but I would love to talk to you for hours. But yeah, so I guess talk to me a little bit more about Day 1000. I guess let's kind of maybe end off on that.
Yeah, let's do that.
What do we have in place? What's it going to look like? I know you've talked about a little bit on the vlog, like some of the people you've had partnered on. Mm-hmm. Are you going to kind of be teasing is your company going to have anything at Day 1000 or?
Company probably won't have anything there. I think like one of the reasons I wanted to launch when we're launching is because I'm running some of my contracts through it now, it's actually helping me fund Day 1000. So it's a great use case of like, I would be a little bit nervous about some things had I not actually had this new business helping me getting my finances. Now I would get some of these payouts in like July or August, but I'm paying for the party, you know, on June 30th.
Yeah.
So it's actually a great use case, and I think that's going to be a part of like the storyline for the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
So that'll be sort of their involvement. They want to actually like be there.
Okay.
But for Day 1000, it's like my birthday is August 31st. So growing up, I always had a pool party for my birthday.
Okay.
And it was like right at the end of the summer, right before school started, and it was always like this fun thing. So I was like, what if we just do a pool party in LA with everyone that's been supportive of the vlogs up until this point, all the brands who have been supportive as well. We bring them all under one roof and just like have a good, fun day. All my favorite foods, all my favorite drinks, get a house in LA with a pool, and just like have fun.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of planning that goes into it, but it's funny that like all the planning that goes into it and then like the day of is just hanging out and having a good time.
Yeah.
So there's not really like too much going on during the day other than like swimming in the pool and eating good food, which will be a great time. But there's just a lot of like puzzle pieces that need to go in place before that happens.
Yeah. And then in terms of brands, is it like, do you have like,
I've tried to think of like, you know, what are the brands that make sense for a pool party?
Yeah.
So like sunscreen, towels, like I want ice baths there as like a part of it. And then drinks, beverages, food, like all the things that would just normally be at a pool party. Just finding brands that sort of like fit into that. And luckily there's a lot of like, you know, brands that I've already worked with that do fit into it.
Right.
So Ice Barrel for like the ice baths, because they sent me their Ice Barrel. I love their team. They're great people. Guayaki, the Bev, they're going to be there. Like Leisure and Whims, the two companies that I made investments in. You know, I'm still waiting on like a couple more confirmations from other companies, but yeah, like there's been a lot of good like organic relationships that I've just taken back from the past 980 days and been like, okay, I can just, you know, hit up these people because they make sense for a pool party.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'm so excited. And, you know, I've been a fan of yours for so long.
I appreciate it, man.
And to end this off, that's really the interview. Man, Jack Cook, check him out on TikTok at .jackcook, right?
Yeah.
And then we got, you know, plug you on Instagram. Go ahead, you can plug yourself on Instagram.
Instagram is _HJ Cook.
Okay, HJ Cook on Instagram. And yeah, just keep following the vlog and the new business. And I think that does it. That's
so much
the
for
Jack
having
Cook
me.
interview. Of course,
I appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, it was fun.
Alrighty.
Sweet.
Thanks, Jesse. Man,
How'd we do?
I think we did good.
Good.
Yeah.
Dope, dude.
Is that good?
That was great, dude.